What's going on, everybody? This Afro Think Tank. Listen, African Americans ain't boycotting no African businesses, okay? Now, FBA, the xenophobic hate cult of Tariq Nasheed, they might boycott African business. But more than likely, these Midwesterners and Western African Americans, they don't even know any African businesses. They don't even go to African business. They live with white people. All right, the people talking about they gonna boycott African business, they live with white people. All right, that's who they live with, right? Us African Americans who live on the East Coast, who live in Texas, who live in the South, and we live with African people. Guess what? We not boycotting no African businesses. Them's our brothers and sisters. All right, we don't hate ourselves. We know we African, and we're proud Africans that live in America. You see, we know we African because we know our ancestors didn't choose to immigrate to America. We don't attach ourselves to the system of white supremacy like you do nothing hateful ass Negroes do. That's what you do. If that's what you want to do, go right ahead. We know you're a micro minority. And the thing is, tomorrow, you guys are going to be embarrassed because you're going to show that you're ineffective. We're going to see, because you got to come outside. See, that's the thing about it. In order to boycott, you're going to have to show your boycott. Huh? You're going to have to kind of show you almost will have to go out there and stand out there, right? And just not walk in for it to be ineffective, right? But I know all you do nothing hateful ass because you hate yourselves. Negroes, y'all going to go to Target. Y'all going to go to Starbucks because y'all ain't got that same energy for them white folk. You got all our enemies surrounding us right now, attacking us left and right. But y'all focused on black people because it's an easy target. If you scared of white people, just say you scared. That's what it is. You scared to fight the real fight because you afraid you're going to get hurt. Because you are the weakest members of our community. You understand? If you call yourself FBA and you're proud of it and you ready to die on that hill, that means that you just found some sort of pride when a weak-ass C-listing, can't rap, fake pimp gave you the title. Y'all the same people that bounce from Muslim to Hebrew Israelite to Nubian to any kind of title, anything other than African, because you're afraid of yourself. You look in the mirror and you run away. Y'all want to be pretendians, but y'all want reparations. Reparations ain't for pretendians. Y'all living in a fantasy because y'all suffer from post-traumatic slave syndrome. You guys need therapy. You guys are hurt, broken the brain. Y'all broken Negroes. You are afraid to be African, afraid to be who you are. So you target yourself. You look in the mirror and you punch it to break it because you can't stand yourself. When you see an African, you see yourself. When you see African success and you not successful, you see what you could have did, but you can't because you ain't put the work in. That's what you see. You see us proud African Americans that secure in ourselves, that know that we are successful and we know we are African. Yeah, we're going to go to African business tomorrow. And I guarantee you, there's going to be plenty of videos of African Americans showing that they went and supported an African business. That's the truth. That's what's going to happen. This is the end for you FBA ADOS, hateful white supremacist contractors. You white supremacists in blackface. You think you're going to fool us, African Americans? Do you know how many psyops have been played on African Americans over the years? Huh? Do you know how many times we're much smarter than you guys give us credit for? We're much smarter than you dumbass weak-linked Negroes. You understand? Our music tells you how proud we are to be African. Everything about us tells you how proud we are to be African. Even our intellectual capability, our intellectual journeys in this country tells you that we are proud to be African. As a matter of fact, even our weirdo hoteps tell you how proud we are to be African. We make African shit up. Even our ghetto names is an attempt to have African names and not be white. Tells you we proud to be African. We've always been proud to be African. Always. And if you think all of a sudden you're going to change the view of the world to make these Africans and Caribbeans think that all of a sudden, all of us African Americans, all of a sudden, when African people in droves of connecting with the continent of Africa and with their Caribbean brothers and sisters, while we having a mass exodus of Africans going to Africa, building businesses, building relationships, while we got thousands of Nigerians coming to the African-American community, bolstering our communities, marrying our women and marrying our men, connecting us back together. All of a sudden, we got these do-nothing, hateful ass, self-hating ass Negroes that want to separate themselves like a bunch of bitches. Now, if you want to separate yourself, you can go on over there to the Ozark with them white folk. Go ahead and buy some land right next to them and make your little FBA villages. Y'all go return to the land over there. If you a native pretending, why don't you go find yourself a little piece of land? Go make y'all a little FBA town. Go build you some FBA villages and some FBA buildings, some FBA housing developments. Go make your little enclave of xenophobic, hateful Negroes that don't want to have nothing to do with Africa. And let's see how long you last when them white folks see you have any semblance of success. Let's see what they do to your bitch ass. While the rest of us African Americans tighten up and armor up with our brothers and sisters on the continent and in the Caribbean and protect ourselves on the eastern hemisphere of this country and connect ourselves on the western and central and eastern parts of Africa. While we go to the Caribbean and connect with our Caribbean brothers and sisters and make a fucking trifecta of real black power on this planet. Yeah, y'all go ahead and play over there in the corner somewhere with the weaklings while it's real strong black power, pan-African, pro-black African Americans do our thing over here. Because we don't need you. All right, Harriet Tubman could have saved so many more black people, only if they didn't know they were fucking slaves. And you guys are the ones that don't realize you're a fucking slave. So y'all go right over there, back onto the plantation, while we continue to liberate ourselves and display black excellence on the world stage. Anyway, that's all I gotta say. This is Afro Think Tank. Learn some, teach some. I'm out.
Honor and respect, honor and respect, honor and respect. Greetings and salutations, one and all. It is another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Voodoo Hoodoo 101. Powered, produced, promoted, sponsored, and supported by NOIVD, New Orleans International Voodoo Day. 2026 New Orleans International Voodoo Day promises an inspiring and immersive experience with a diverse lineup of engaging events. Highlights include an educational symposium featuring distinguished speakers from around the world, including a delegation of scholars and spiritual leaders from Benin and Haiti, as well as art exhibitions showcasing voodoo-inspired works by talented local and international artists. The event will also include a children's program, an Afro-ecology exhibit, exploring the sacred nature of plants and voodoo, their roles in spiritual practices, and their connection to our ancestors. The weekend will culminate in a ceremonial procession to 9 significant sites throughout the city, locations where the enslaved were brought ashore, held, auctioned, and where they later found community and created culture. This journey will begin at the transatlantic slave route to New Orleans marker, on the moonwalk at the river, and conclude with a traditional voodoo ceremony at Congo Square. Additionally, visitors can participate in interactive workshops, community discussions, and opportunities to connect with practitioners and cultural experts. We also invite you to continue to support us weeknights, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, for this powerful podcast. We're certainly grateful for your participation. Thank you so much, Nina Lloyd, Lydia Martin, Ray Alexander. Thank you so much for participating. We certainly appreciate you and all of you who are listening now out there in social media land. Tonight, we want to talk about conjure, magic, and power, the influence of Afro-Atlantic religious practices on slave resistance and rebellion. Writing in 1842, Reverend Charles C. Jones exposed the fears many antebellum Southerners had regarding the influence of what he called teachers, doctors, prophets, conjurers in determining the actions of North American slaves. And I quote, "Ignorance and superstition render them easy dupes to artful and designing men. On certain occasions, they have been made to believe that while they carried out their persons some charm with which had been furnished, that they were invulnerable. They have on certain other occasions been made to believe that they were under a protection that rendered them invincible. They have been known to be so perfectly and fearfully under the influence of some leader or conjurer or minister that they have not dared disobey him, in the least particular. And these artful and designing men and women found on plantations throughout the Americas were as ubiquitous as the individual and group acts of slave resistance they inspired. They served as conduits of powerful supernatural forces beyond the comprehension of those contemporaries and were therefore believed to be integral to the success of a number of slave resistance movements. This mystical powers conjurers claimed to control made them formidable and respected figures among the enslaved African populace. As historian John Blasingame noted in 1972, in many instances, the conjurer had more control over the slaves than the master had. The fear evoked by these spiritualists is really measured by the words and actions of slaves and their holders. Henry Clay Bruce in 1969 wrote, "A man who spent 29 years of his life as a slave in Missouri, Virginia, and Mississippi recalled numerous conjurers who succeeded in duping their fellow slaves so successfully and to such an extent that they believed and feared them almost beyond their masters. Among slaves, at least, conjurers were respected, not solely because of the apprehension their powers inspired. In the words of W.E.B. Du Bois, these spiritualists had multifaceted and multidimensional functions in the slave community. At any given time, the conjurer could be the healer of the sick, the interpreter of the unknown, the comforter of the sorrowing or the bereaved, the supernatural avenger of the wrong. And it would be through many of these roles that African conjurers helped to encourage slave resistance throughout the Americas. In North America, the power of conjure was revered by both African and American born slave rebels in similar fashion. They seemingly believed, without question, the ability of these spiritualists to determine the outcome of a variety of events, including resistance movements, through arcane and supernatural means. This assessment runs counter to the claims of Eugene Genovese, who argued that the presence of West African conjurers as insurrectionary leaders could not be reproduced in the United States except on a trivial scale because the necessary revolutionary conjecture did not exist. The conjurers of the Old South were accommodationists in the same sense as were the Black preachers. And despite a general tendency by Genovese and other American historians to view the North American slave experience as unique or exceptional, the widespread belief and practice of conjuration proves that this particular phenomenon at least was a shared African diasporic reality. Indeed, sufficient evidence demonstrating that slave conjurers in North America were in fact an influencing presence in a number of mass rebellions, conspiracies, and acts of day-to-day resistance can be found in a variety of primary sources. Far from being the accommodationist discussed by Genovese, North American conjurers can be better viewed as a revolutionary vanguard, inspiring and encouraging resistance behavior among their fellow enslaved. Claiming command over esoteric and magical forces, conjurers were seen as integral to the success of slave revolts. This was definitely the case in the 1712 New York City slave rebellion, which was the most serious slave disturbance up to that time in the British American colonies. It only involved about 28 insurgents. However, this relatively small band killed 10 whites, wounded 12 others, and created a panic throughout the North American colonies. Among the key components in this rebellion was Peter the Doctor, a free African conjurer who rubbed a magical powder onto the clothing of the slaves to reportedly make them invulnerable. Thus emboldened, the rebels, armed with swords, knives, and guns, set fire to a building in downtown New York City and waited to ambush approaching whites seeking to put out the blaze. This New York City revolt had some revealing parallels with an uprising that took place in 1760 on another British colonial possession. In Jamaica, a slave named Tacky, who was claimed to be a Coromantee, led a slave rebellion in Jamaica with the aid of a number of Obia conjurers. As a spiritual practice linked to Akan speaking West Africans from the Gold Coast region, Obia was a powerful belief system found particularly among slaves in the British, Danish, and Dutch Caribbean and mainland South American colonies. During the early phases of this revolt, one of Tacky's Obia men was captured by colonial officials, allowing a window into the world of this unique practice, while at the same time creating a plausible explanation for the events occurring during the New York City Rebellion nearly 50 years earlier. And according to contemporary source, this captured conjurer was also a Coromantan, or Caramantian, and or a Khan speaking. After being apprehended by British colonial authorities, this Obia man testified that he, along with his fellow practitioners, administered a powder which, being rubbed on their bodies, was to make them invulnerable. Thus, in both the 1712 New York City revolt and 1760 Jamaican conspiracy, powder was rubbed onto slaves, imbuing them with special powers and giving them the confidence to rebel. A definite Akan speaking presence can be found in the 1712 New York City revolt. Two of the three extant contemporary accounts of the uprising demonstrate tangible proof that Akan speaking Africans played active roles in this event. The April 7th to April 14th, 1712 edition of the Boston Newsletter, which at the time was the only newspaper operating in British North America, reported that some Coromantee Negroes, to the number of 25 or 30, and 2 or 3 Spanish Indians conspired to murder all the Christians here. In a letter dated June 23, 1712, Reverend John Sharp, chaplain of the English garrison in New York City, revealed even more information linking these events to Akan speaking Africans. Sharp reported that some Negro slaves here of Ye nations of Coromantee and Papa plotted to destroy all the whites in order to obtain their freedom. And not only were the rebels referred to in two of the contemporary accounts of Coromantee, a term associated with Akan speaking from the Gold Coast, but another important indicator of an Akan presence is readily evident in the trial records generated in the aftermath of the 1712 revolt. Of the 21 Africans facing criminal charges in connection with the uprising, 9 had Akan Day names. Of the slaves accused of being involved in the revolt, 2 were named Kufi, 4 were named Kwaku, 1 was named Kwashi, Kwasi, and Amba, respectively. With few exceptions, every Akan child is given a first name determined by the actual day of his or her birth, in addition to any other familial names. On reaching adulthood, the original day name was typically no longer commonly used, except by close relatives and others wishing to express familiarity and endearment. This practice in the Americas is a testament to particular African cultural understandings, was continued to shape the consciousness of 18th century North American slaves. And again, we're certainly appreciative and grateful for your participation in this weeknight, 9 p.m. Central podcast class, history telling, if you will. And I want to invite my co-host to come on in, the beloved Queen Val, Sister Toni Martinez, followed by our elder Reggie, known on this platform as Green Soul. Greetings, salutations, beloved. What say you?
Hey, hi everybody out there. Thank you for joining us. I was thinking about you was talking about the names, how they gave the different names, and as the person grew older, I wonder if that's why we give our children so many names. Like we give them what we call the God-given name. That would be the name that's on our birth certificate. Then they give us a nickname to call so that I was told that Satan couldn't find us by our God-given name. We would be hidden from him because nobody was calling us by our right name. And especially, Divine, in my family, we got 3 or 4 names per child. Then they got a nickname. Even our dog had a nickname. How your dog named Buster and we call him Bubba?
Yes, indeed.
I mean, we gave everybody different names. And I wonder if that's something that's in our blood DNA that we do that and follow that practice. Um, we got the first name, the middle name, then Catholic children get a confirmation name. Then we give our children a nickname in the house. Like that's why I have so many names. I have so many names. Sometimes I forget what my God-given name is. I have like 5 different names that different people call me from different eras in my life. And a lot of people I find have that also. You have your family name that they call you. Then when you go to school, your close friends at school might give you a name because of an attribute you might have. And then when you get out of that, you might get another name. So I wonder if that's where we get that from doing that. Because I talked to some Caucasian people and they just were surprised that we give our children nicknames like that stick and that sound like sounds you make, like but da da. That's my grandkids' nickname. It sounds like a bunch of tools banging. But you think that's why we do that, Divine? It could be one of the reasons it's in our DNA to do that. Elder Reggie?
Yeah, I'm here, Sister Toni. I know you had asked Divine Prince the question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if he can hear us or not. But
Oh,
what do
okay.
you think on that?
I definitely and good evening, Sister Toni and Divine
Good
Prince, when you
evening.
do come back up. I do believe that is carried through culture and some of it due to DNA. But with me doing just some traveling because I wanted to get out of the books and wanted to go back to Africa and do a deep dive. And I did. And what I learned, especially through Nigeria, through Benin, Togo, and Ghana, a lot of the names and the things they are given are coming from divination. So even though the in astrology, if I'm born in November, people say I'm Scorpio. So your day name lines up with an astrology, but it's also coming from a divination. And so what I come to learn was there was divining before the first slaves was brought in shackles to America. They were using the divination system way back then.
Yes.
And so we get remnants of these things today. But I still think it's part of culture, and culture runs through the DNA, Sister Toni.
And the
Yeah.
power of the name certainly goes back to Kemet. in ancient Egypt, where they also had, a public name or family name, a name to represent your age group or your peer group, and often a magical name that only a handful of people directly connected to your spiritual family would know. So it's certainly an ancient tradition that, as Elder Reggie said, was indeed passed down through ancestral memory.
And when I used to do readings, I would do divination by the numbers in their names, the numbers. And I felt that gave a really good, accurate reading. I mean, I had some, and I would always write mine down to give the person so they could go back and see it later. And it would awfully scare people that I knew so much about their private life through the numbers. I mean, some people were actually scared. I really don't like to do readings. They take a lot out of me. I don't like to do readings where people request me to do readings. Like I said, my readings come through emotion. I don't like to sit down and have to think about it and concentrate on it and stuff like that. It takes a lot out of me. But the numbers of the names.
Yeah, but Sister Toni, I like to tap into what Divine Prince read about the revolution in Jamaica with Tackett Group. Divine Prince said it was 9 of them. When they done the research, it was 9 of them had Akan day names. Out of the 9, 4 was named Kwaku. That's Wednesday born. Now, I'm a Wednesday born. And when you start studying some of the Wednesday borns, they saw the revolutionary. They no nonsense. If you mess with them, they come back double hard. And so when Divine Prince read that, I was like, wow, this is just what it is. It's almost alignment to astrology. I'm trying to give something that you could relate it to. But if you study the days that you are born, you could see some of that still in your personality today. And also with the numbers, because with the day, now you take the numbers, you take the month, the day you was born in the year, and you add those numbers up, and that gives you what is called your Kra number or your sacred number. And so you're tapping into something real, real powerful, Sister Toni, with that number system. And we know we got guys and girls who do astrology today, numerology, and some of the other ologies out there. And they're going deep and getting information that can help people to move forward.
Yeah, that is true. That is very, very true. And, like with the names, the different names, the way my young life was, it was good. I had all them different names. If I was hiding from I was being hid from demons and evil spirits, because ever since I had been here in my first 10 years, something was trying to take me out. I was shot, I was stabbed, I was drowned, all before I was 5 years old.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Sister, thank God you're still with us. Thank God you're still with us. Thank the ancestors.
It was a rough one. It was a rough one. I was a very abused child. And I also was kidnapped from my parents, which I think may have been a divine plan, because I wouldn't know what I know now if I would have stayed with my mother, I believe, unless I would have got it from my grandmother, who they said was a reader and a conjurer. But where I went to with my parents and the mother I had, who taught me about this stuff as much as she could, because she died when I was 12. And, I believe I was put with her to make me safe, to keep me here. I mean, it was rough, but
no, the beauty,
I made it.
The beauty in what you're sharing with us, you're still physically here. So when you go back and you uncover the past, there was still protection. that got you through the past, through the present, and also into the future. And so this is real. Sometimes when we're doing reading and when we're doing spiritual work for people, we tell people, look, you're not being protected right now. You're being uncovered. Do this, get some protection. Or you're not safe. Do this, do that. And that is what the whole system of divination or divining into the matter is designed to do, to help people in their present moment. Because at all times, each and one of us could become vulnerable. Because there are malevolent forces out there that want to do us harm.
Yes. And now that I'm saying it like out loud and I'm reflecting back on it, how all the stuff happened to me before I was 10 like that, then most stuff happened to me as I grew older. I just realized I didn't get on an even keel where nobody was trying to take me out until I met Divine Prince.
The same here. I had been on the street since I was 14. And what's in the name? Oh my goodness. The power of names. Changing my name literally changed my fate and my trajectory in life in terms of my destiny.
Well,
So I'm just not realizing that, Divine. I'm like, okay, what happened after I was this old? What happened when I was this old? And then I was like, oh, damn, ain't nothing happened since then. And it turns out that's around the time I met you. And let me tell
Generational
you,
curse breaker.
wait, let me tell you, his name, the company he was working for called me into the office because they were afraid of his name. This was before they hired him. He had put in an application and they were afraid of his name. And they called me into the office because they knew what I was into, that I was Afrocentric. And they asked me about him and everything. And I was like, damn. I was like, yeah, go ahead on and hire him. This, that, and other thing. And I was like, damn, I want to meet this dude here. But then it took us a while to meet each other. But it was through reading one of his reports also in the office, because I worked in the building with the office. And I was like, I got to get him over here in my building. Just from reading what he wrote. But the name is something like, it's very few people, only close family that call me Val. That's why Divine Prince, I think, be stumbling, because he not used to saying really Toni Val when we talk. Some people call me Toni, you can tell who they are. And some people call me Val. And I had to combine the names when I got on Facebook, because if I just said Toni, the people that knew me as Val didn't know who I was. And if I said Val, the people that knew me as, Toni, and vice versa. So I had to put them together so they could realize, oh, that's Val or that's Toni. So I had to combine them. But a name is very serious, and you have to tell people when they having these babies, be careful with their name on. Be very careful, because I'm going to tell you what my experience is. Everybody I know with the name Michael, they act alike. Their personalities are similar. Everybody named Don that I know, Don, Donald, Donovan, they all act the same. Stevens. I can tell when a new employee came by their name if we was going to get along together. I know the names of people, and you can say it's prejudging, and I don't try to act like I'm taking anything of them. I just let them expose their self to me, and then I be like, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it.
Wow.
So names are very, very, very important, and I think some kind of way our oppressors found that out, because, okay, let's say 65 years ago, if a woman had a baby, she had up to 2 years to name that child. Here in New Orleans, at Charity Hospital, you had up to 2 years to name that child. Now you got to name the child before they even can leave the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is true. And also, just to tie in with numbers, they assign a name and a number to their child.
Yes.
Before they come home. And that number becomes so trackable as you grow throughout your life.
And you used to didn't need that number until you got a job. If you didn't get a job, you never needed a Social Security number.
Now
You wasn't issued a Social Security number until you started working, because that's what it was for. Working people.
Mm-hmm.
So that they can take out taxes and they can take out money for your Medicaid and Social Security when they start taking out Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's all got to be done wop, wop, wop.
That's right.
And in certain traditions and customs and cultures, they have so many days before you have a naming ceremony
Mm-hmm.
of the child, so you can get to kind of feel out the child personality. Well, this government has taken all that away.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a power, because people had to think and come together as a family on what that child was going to be named.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. But beautiful discussion. We're going to bring it to a close, but please bear with me. I want to tap into the guy name was Afro Think Tank that Divine Prince opened up the show with, who done the talking. And before I close out, I just want to do another paragraph reading. And Divine Prince always bring it up, and he is so correct with this. And for those in the listening audience, I'm just going to do just a revised history for you on the word COINTELPRO. COINTELPRO, a symbolic abbreviation derived from counterintelligence program, was a series of covert and illegal projects conducted between 1956 and 1971. I would still say even to 2025 by the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation, aimed at surveilling, infiltrating, discrediting, and disrupting American political organizations that the FBI perceived as subversive. Groups and individuals targeted by the FBI included feminist organizations, the Communist Party USA, the Vietnam organizers, activists in the civil rights and Black Power movement, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and the Black Panther Party, environment and animal rights organizations, the American Indian movement, Chicano Mexican American groups like the Brown Berets, and the United Farm Workers. And I bring that up to say what's going on right now in the African American community, so-called beef with the Africans and the Caribbeans. It do and smell like a COINTEL type operation. With that, I'll say, lest we forget, the spiritual medicine of voodoo brings healing and relief from the shackles of slavery that binds the master and the slave to the same chain of social division. We cannot let COINTELPRO break that chain apart again. With that, I say, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. We love you all. Good night. Good night.
Ashe, good night, everyone.
Odabo.
At the beginning of this, maybe I was more skeptical. As the days have gone on, I'm not sure what I think anymore. I felt that maybe it wouldn't affect me if I personally didn't believe in it.
So, knowing what you know now, would you still get cursed?
I'm seeking out a curse, a hex, to put on myself.
A curse could end your life. You're literally begging the devil to knock on your door just to prove to you that God's real.
He could curse you with stupidity, but we think you got that down.
Despite the warnings, I'm investigating the real-world effects of dark magic.
Looks like you have a lot of love and a lot of opportunity. You are going to cause damage to that.
How do you feel after doing this?
Evil.
That must be quite seductive.
That's the power you're calling on. The devil, right? Quite seductive.
I'm going to enter into a pact with Satan.
Señor Satán, Lucifer, presentamos a este hermano. Con tu fuego purifica.
Wyong is pretty much the epicenter of all black magic. People are very scared to even talk about it.
Y'all better not call me at 2 o'clock in the morning talking about this man is dead. I don't want to hear that.
I have this physical feeling that something bad is coming. What have I done?
You're going to have to find faith in this in order to undo it.